there. Welcome back. Chapter 6 of the virtual online book study of my new book, Vegetables Loves Flowers. I am so glad you have decided to come back and join us this week. So this week, I've lost my place in the book. I wanted to read to you just to get us started, Chapter 6. But before I do that, you may notice I'm sitting outside, so we're going to have a lot of outdoor noises, good and even maybe some bad ones. But this is my life of farming in the city, so we thought we would just kind of give you a real taste of that this morning. So I am going to read to you from page, let's see, 108. Actually, it's the first page of Chapter 6. During the years of gardening and farming, I have come to learn more about how to attract and support pollinators. Now I can clearly see why pollinators began to flock to my gardens as I was developing my cut flower farm. Some of my practices were exactly what they were looking for. Planting large numbers of the same flower together helped the pollinators locate the flowers. In the home garden, it is beneficial to resist the urge to scatter flowers around the garden and instead plant them in a large mass. That offers the most benefits for pollinators. These and other natural practices added over time have ushered in an abundance of pollinators to my garden. Perhaps one of the greatest gifts of native pollinators is that they're right outside our back door. You need only invite them in and give them a few flowers, a spot to nest, and a habitat free of pesticides. So that really kind of sums it up in a nutshell. Plant flowers, plant them together, don't use pesticides, and give these guys a place to come, rest, have babies, and be safe, and to hide, right? So there's the obvious suspects that we all want to attract to our gardens that we just love to see, right? Butterflies, hummingbirds. Both of them, in fact, are native pollinators. Maybe not the most efficient, but they certainly are welcome visitors to our garden because they do the job, and we enjoy seeing them so very, very much. And of course, we have honeybees who are not native, and they come and, so many people are beekeepers now that many of us have, and I'm being joined now by Barry. You can't see her, but she just came up and laid down at my feet. We do have honeybees, which really get the headline all the time. We're always talking about honeybee collapse, and thank goodness there are people that are beekeepers but honeybees are not native. They can't just live out in the wild. What most people don't realize, and I did not know until I kind of got into this, is that there are thousands of other species of bees known as native bees. And these bees, just like butterflies, just like hummingbirds, are right outside our back door. And all we have to do is roll out the welcome mat to get them to come and set up housekeeping in our garden and to help our garden. But even more importantly, if you want to think beyond your garden for the greater, bigger good, these native bees are the ones that pollinate the world, our landscapes, our parks, our native and wild plants that bear fruit, blackberries, all of them. So even though you really want to encourage all of these native bees to come to your garden, we really should be looking to give these native bees a place to kind of like set up housekeeping, because they're the ones that take care of our beyond our yards landscape. So what do we have to do that? And I talk a lot about this in the book, and I really wanted to do this outside today because I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. I know we can hear the crows. I call that a crow party. We have one every morning. The crows all come and have roost in our trees. But there's construction noise in the background today, and most of you don't know is that we're having 90 houses put up right next to our farm, and it's really a very traumatic experience for me. Has nothing to do with losing the view, which by all means was beautiful. It's really the disruption of nature, of all the wildlife and creatures and insects that have been totally decimated in this process. But I also knew that that farm, that 40 acres of amazing flora, hedgerows that were 150 years old, that were the home to so many native bees and other pollinators, as well as other wildlife, are now just dirt. They've taken it all out. And I knew that that was going to definitely undermine my foundation of my organic gardening here. That was the home to the beneficial insects and to the native pollinators, so that I had to really jump into action. So about 4 years ago, we started working on this when we knew that this was ultimately coming. And we put in a native border that flanks the side of my farm that this is happening, not only to block the view, but to give a place to all of these creatures that are losing their home. So we put in a native border, which is a permanent planting. It is a mix of native trees and shrubs, and we're going to talk about that when we get to a later chapter. But this group that we're trying to attract, these native pollinators, which are so significant to make our gardens more abundant, right? Native bees, the bumblebee, is the only bee that can help you pollinate your tomatoes. You want bigger and better and more of your tomatoes, you need to get the bumblebees in. Well, guess what? They need a place to lay their eggs, to winter over, for those eggs to winter over, to have babies, and a permanent area around your garden is the place to do that. So we have this native border. I provide all kinds of native bee homes, you might say, or places that native bees could choose. As I said, there's thousands of different types, and there's several different groups in there that nest in different ways. Some drill a hole in the ground, not to be mistaken with what most people call ground bees, are not bees at all. Those are wasps. They're the ones that when you run over their hole in the ground with the lawnmower, about July, they take off after you and chase you down and sting you, and it's just really horrible. Those are not bees at all. Most native bees live alone. The reason that those wasps sting you is they're trying to defend their colony. They think that you're attacking them. Native bees, the majority of them, live alone, so they don't have that habit. They don't feel that need to protect their colony, right? So they don't do that. Only when strongly provoked will they sting. I'm allergic to bees. There's nobody more alert to the potential of stings. And I do everything in my power to attract native bees to my garden because I haven't found it to be a problem in my reaction to them and to giving them a place to live. So I did want to share this morning that background noise, which of course they've stopped working now a little bit. The destruction started about 6 months ago. We're in May, and I have already seen a significant drop in the presence of native creatures in my garden because of what has happened next door. So I, just like many of you, am kind of starting over. It takes about 2 years for this balance to come back. For if you're a person that's using pesticides or using any kind of products like that, and you stop, you make the decision to do to really try to restore the natural order of your garden, it takes about 2 years for the results of what you've been doing in the past, what these people are doing next door, for in my case, it takes about 2 years for that to restore. And so I know now that I am in that process. And it didn't really dawn on me. I've done a couple of big harvests already. Typically, our bachelor buttons are just loaded with native bees when I'm harvesting, but that hasn't been the case this year for the first time in 10 years. So I too understand, but you just have to be patient and hold on. So if you're making that choice that you really want to restore the order of your garden and you want to bring these native pollinators in, just hold tight. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is going to happen. And I did want to also just mention our wildlife. I have a couple of projects in this book, and if I can find the right chapter that I want to be on, here we go. A couple of projects, and our native wildlife hotel, I call it, which is a pretty busy place, and I'll tell you, we have to repack that thing all the time, and it's the birds, I think, that are really carrying the sticks off and making homes. But you can take any one component of that wildlife hotel and do it on a smaller scale if you want to. The bee blocks, you can do that. And so there's really a lot of really fun things that you can do. I mean, great projects to do with kids. And, you know, you're not necessarily going to see them unless you're kind of outside in your garden like I am all the time. And the crows are really having a party this morning, aren't they? Unless you're really outside in your garden all the time like I am, you might miss a lot of this action. I find that at about the 7 to 10 a.m. window is where I see some action, but it's that 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. when the sun is really out, the heat is going, is when I really see a lot of the action. And I observe at a distance, trying not to disturb them and, of course, not to provoke them. And so I hope that this will give you an encouragement. And the headliner here is that while honeybees are certainly significant in the crop pollinating world, and that you don't have to be a beekeeper. We have thousands of species of native bees. I think, if I'm remembering, we're quoting this right, there's 45 species of different types of black bumblebees, the big black and yellow ones, here in North America. And then there's like 4,000 other species of native bees, and then there's like 7 species of honeybees. Those numbers could be a guesstimation. But that's just to give you an idea of how many different bees, and we pictured a couple of them in Vegetables Love Flowers. And, you know, Vegetables Love Flowers is really all about giving you enough tidbit to whet your appetite, to make you want to dig deeper, to do a little something, and to make you want to investigate if you want to. But this book gives you what you need to get your garden going and experience what I'm experiencing here on my farm, which is really nature in action. And so I'm really glad that you've chosen to join me, and please share this with your friends. The book study will be coming back to you next week, same time, same place. And I really appreciate you being here and can't wait to see you next time. Ciao.